sense of where I think the world of technology and storytelling is going. As your professor said, I've been wearing cameras on my face for about 10 years now. The latest ones that I wear are these ones. And these really take things to another level because they have screens inside. Can you guys see inside there? There's a little screen. So, I have access to information. I can see information around me. I can be chased around the streets by zombies. And that has amazing and incredible implications for journalism. And if we have some time, I'll show you guys some examples of some of the journalism that we're doing with this technology. But it's really, really cool. Prof Dev, if you can just enable screen sharing on my side, so I can show the kids some cool stuff.
Yeah, sure thing. Mani, can you do that? Can you just
all that's happening?
Co-host, please. Yeah.
Definitely get in touch with me if you guys are looking for job opportunities. We're always hiring. We've hired folks from ACJ in the past and had really good experiences. Our startup has grown very fast. We started the pandemic with just 2 staff. We're now 100 people around the world full time. So it's been a really, really exciting journey. Let's see if it works. It's not working just yet. I'd love to come back to India. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I had a chance to live there. I was working at the Hindustan Times, lived there for a year. I'm of Indian origin, but born in the UK, raised in Australia, married in South Africa. Sorry to the young women on the call, and now living in Australia. Are you guys winning with the screen share? If not, I can just talk without it.
Hello, Mani, can you just enable it?
Mani, can you enable it, please?
Who is it? Mani?
Just.
Mani, can you enable screen share for Yusuf, please?
Yeah.
He's on it. Hey, buddy.
Yusuf, you're always welcome when you're in this part of the world now.
Oh, you say that, but I'm not. I haven't been able to get a visa to India for the last 5 or 6 years. You have a very interesting choice of government at the moment, and if you're a journalist with a Muslim name, it's not that easy to come to India right now. Yeah, I've been denied. I have 3 passports: British, Australian, South African. I can't come to India on any of those.
Yeah, Michael Safi has also been denied again, and he's been trying. Michael Safi, of the Guardian, has been wanting to come back to India for some time, and it's not been given the visa.
I take it as a compliment, almost. Journalistic integrity. So Seen, we are previously #OurStories. We're now Seen. We are creating the most inclusive, international, and immersive storytelling company. Why inclusive? Because traditional media organizations critically lack diversity, especially in the Indian media landscape. Why international? Because we're going to find solutions to international problems, to global problems from global solutions. You might find a farmer in India has a solution to a problem in California. And why immersive? Because I'm a big believer that over the next 8 years, we're going to transition from mobile phones to cameras and computers on our faces. And it creates more empathy and more understanding when we do this immersive forms of storytelling. That is a picture of me getting my bum wiped in the UK, where I was born. I wasn't born in the field, I was born in the UK. And that's mom and dad looking after me. But it's the guy who took this photo that's actually really interesting. It's my uncle, Yusuf Omar. He's another Yusuf Omar. And he's an anesthetist. He puts people to sleep for a living before operations and surgeries, whereas I tend to just put people to sleep with my speeches. But Uncle Yusuf was a really innovative dude. He had a bunch of high profile clients around the world, and he always needed to be on calls. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, there were no mobile phones. So he did something illegal. He basically set up an antenna on the roof of his house and another one on his car. And he had like a battery the size of a briefcase in the car. And that enabled him to take phone calls from the car within 2 kilometers of his house. So he basically set up one of the first mobile phones in the UK illegally. And at the time, people kind of laughed at him and said, well, why do you need phones? Why do you need to be connected all the time? they didn't really understand, right? Like why you need phones all the time, but he was an innovator. And I think early innovations are sometimes seen like that. You kind of go through this, this is Gartner's curve of like technology adoption, and you know, you have the initial hype and enthusiasm, then technologies don't always meet people's expectations. There's a bit of disillusionment or unhappiness, and then we suddenly start to reach the stages of technology which bring us more productivity, etc. And like, even if I think about my own grandmother who passed away a few years ago, this was her rocking my first pair of spectacles, V1 spectacles, with cameras on the inside, but no screens, on her 91st birthday. And if you just think about like how much technology changed in her life and over the last kind of 100, 150 years, we've gone from 1903, where, you know, the Wright brothers launched the first flight, first time we get an airplane going and we get up into the sky. Fucking exciting moment. Jump forwards to like today, 2022, and we're deploying rovers on Mars. We're able to put like literally robots onto other planets, and we're trying to colonize those planets. So huge amount of innovation. And, you know, Bill Gates often speaks about this idea that we overestimate the changes that we'll see over the 2-year period, but we underestimate the changes that we'll see over a decade. And I think when you look at wearables, we're kind of like very much in that emerging space. We haven't reached the growth phase. We're very far from maturity. But journalists and media organizations and hardware providers will be won and lost in that early stage. And I mean, Bill Gates, for one, would definitely know. Like, the dude was trying to convince people of the value of the internet like years and years and years ago, and people were just laughing at him. Like, I don't know if you guys
class with knowledge of computers that they.
But I don't know if you've ever seen these interviews with David Letterman and other people, but they just were like, why do we need the internet? And this was in 1995. They were like, why do I need to search for people when I have a phone book? Why do I need to listen to baseball when I've got, you know, a radio? So time and time again, we see people underestimate the potential of future technology. And I think especially with wearables and wearable journalism, it's so hard for people to visualize that future.
You know,
I'm certainly a big believer in it. This is just a couple of images of like people in my life that I've come across or met or worked with that have been, you know, playing with spectacles and experimenting and trying to get a sense of how they work. My personal backstory, I graduated from marketing and management, a business graduate in 2009. And I rocked up, this was the day in 2009 in Times Square, looking up at all of these big billboards. And in that moment, I realized I didn't want to do marketing anymore. I didn't really want to sell people shit they didn't need. So completely changed my career, decided to do journalism, absolutely fell in love with it. Wanted to be a foreign correspondent, but there wasn't many opportunities to do so. So 2010, I decided to hitchhike from Durban to Damascus, from South Africa to Syria, telling stories 12,000 kilometers up the east coast of Africa, becoming this mojo, this one-man band storyteller. India really changed my life. I was working in Mysore with a group of 200 young women that had been raped or sexually abused. They were climbing a mountain to overcome their physical and mental hurdles. And it was where we used face filters like I'm wearing right now to hide the identities of rape survivors while empowering them to tell their stories. I think when you look at and that's kind of when I realized the power of AR was 2016 when all that happened. When I think about like augmented reality and who's going to win this wearable like journey that we're on, I think the company that does it needs to have amazing hardware. They need to have the trust of consumers. They need to have incredible content. And we've been working on some of that content. You got to have great software, and that involves a community of developers, right? And then you need to educate people on why that tool or that technology is valuable. That's the direction we're moving in. Scene is investing a lot in wearable storytelling. We are, as I mentioned, we're 100 staff around the world. We currently have 12 shows, and these shows are covering mental health, physical health, entrepreneurship. We have 2 shows in India on Snapchat. We have Scene India and Scene Sex Ed India. And then we're taking a lot of that ad revenue and we're redeploying it into immersive storytelling. And this will give you an idea of some of that storytelling.
You're doing nothing wrong.
I've never seen so many dead bodies.
I'm a journalist. Don't touch me. My story might seem sad, but
maybe it will save someone else's life.
Biden, these people want you here. It's not your fault.
This is me being an African leader. I just want to be a part of the next generation that's going to make a change. I want to be a journalist. What should you never say to an assault survivor? Because lying will make you a terrorist. No, have you seen this?
honestly, it's game changing.
It says here in the state, it should say racist.
Don't put plastic in water.
My sense of expression is validated.
I am safe. I feel safe. We are safe.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
We're doing nothing wrong.
So that really hints at some of the work we've done. Did a really cool project in South Africa, for example, with colonial statues, where you can scan them with your mobile phone and they come to life and they start telling you stories about the racists that they really were and their kind of backstories. That just gives you a very, very small teaser into the work that we're doing. We're really, really passionate about helping marginalized communities be seen by empowering them to tell stories with mobile phones and creating augmented reality stories, so stories are seen, overlaid onto the world. Yeah, I'd love to take a few questions if there are any, now that you've got a kind of very basic sense of what we do. And I'm trying to work out how to stop the screen share. Let me find my Zoom. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, folks, any questions, sir? Would you like to go first? Okay, I'll go first then. Yusuf, when you say point of view stories in the POV perspective, what the pair of glasses, the goggles allow you to do is that person's perspective, or it's a first-person view of what is unfolding around you. Is that correct? Am I getting it right?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think there's two different ways of looking at wearable storytelling. One is the POV capture perspective, right? And that's like telling first-person stories from people's perspectives. And we've done that with First Person, our show, and a couple others. That's not particularly new an idea, right? Like GoPros have existed for a long time. I personally have used them for a long time. The really interesting new idea is being able to overlay stories onto the world. So so you're thinking about content consumption and content capture. Content capture is POV. Content consumption can be through these glasses as well. Where,
so, in other words, the story unfolds in the space of the user, right?
Exactly, exactly. Like these butterflies that are floating around me right now.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's the really exciting stuff for me.
Yeah. People, any other questions? We don't have a long time, guys. Just make the best out of it.
They're more camera shy than you are. Either that or the data costs are very high.
Akshay, would you like to switch on the camera?
Wearable technology, isn't it more of a social media entertainment thing? I think any technology can be used for entertainment, or it can be used for journalistic purposes, right? Like an entertaining form of augmented reality is like a dog filter or a funny lens, and a journalistic purpose is the ability to interview people through that tech. And in the context of wearables, both. You can use any media device for entertainment or for kind of more serious journalism. Any other thoughts, questions, themes, any ideas? Anyone got ideas for content they want to create? You guys are in a journalism class. Journalists are generally the people who ask the questions.
Yeah, it should be louder.
Jerry, how do we make this tech accessible to everyone? So the first thing to know is, like, when you're creating AR for wearables, it also works on phones. So your AR lenses, like millions of people today open up AR lenses on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and Snapchat, and those experiences teleport from phones to wearables. It's the same experience. So you start there. You make the technology accessible on mobile phones. When it comes to using wearable technology, investigative journalism, I mean, I think there you're talking about like hidden cameras and spy cameras and all that. The question around where is the line is where is the public interest, right? And if the story is in the public interest for people to know, if it's a matter of corruption, you are able to film people that they may not know you're filming because it's in the public interest. You're in the interest of trying to uncover something. But that's a discussion you tend to have with the legal team at your newsroom on a specific story.
Anybody else? Come on.
How do
Juice,
you
yeah.
deal with challenges of limited phone cameras, background audio? The limited quality of the camera on your phone doesn't generally make a difference. Like if you're watching the content on Instagram stories or Reels or Snapchat, it's probably not even 1080, it's probably like 720, like the way you're consuming it by the time it streams down on your 4G or 3G phone. So the camera quality doesn't matter. Like a good story matters. The quality of the visual is the least important. Like people just want a good story. And in terms of background audio, one, be conscious of what's there, if there's an air conditioning unit or car or whatever. Generators, two, just get closer, like get really close to the mic is one of the most effective ways of making sure that you're heard. Three, there's good mics you can get, right? Lapel mics, you can use a pair of headphones as a decent audio source. So there's lots of different ways you can achieve decent quality audio. All right, cool. Well, team, Prof Dev has it slides into my DMs on Instagram and Facebook, and I've always got time for the prof. He's, as I said, probably the most innovative professor I know in the world when it comes to journalism and journalism school. And you're welcome to slide into my DMs too. So drop me a message on Instagram if you've got any questions, if you've got story ideas, even if you're just career decisions that you've got to make and you want some advice, I'm always available to help and connect with our team. We've got an amazing team in Delhi. Check out Scene India on Instagram. They've got some amazing content. They're on TikTok, they're on Snapchat. Yeah, and give us feedback. Let us know what you think of our stories in India.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Anybody else has a question? Come on, people.
I have a question actually. If
Hi.
that's
Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So my question is like, how do you also tackle with issues of like, say, privacy or with respect to other people when you're shooting with a mobile phone? Because ideally when you're shooting with a mobile phone in public, especially when you're shooting with a mobile phone, it's like the person that you're shooting or the thing that you're shooting, it's a defensive reaction to react hostile towards whatever is being shot because people don't want their privacy to be sort of compromised. So how does that come into play with this?
Yeah, so different countries around the world have different laws when it comes to what you can and can't film. In India and most democracies around the world, if you're in the public space, you don't actually have a right to privacy. So if you are outside of ACJ right now on the main road and there's a chaiwala that's driving past serving tea, you can film that person without, ethically, it's nice to ask people for their permission for sure and let them know where it's appearing, but you don't have to. And that's important because if you didn't have those kinds of laws, when a police officer slaps a woman for no reason, if you weren't able to film that without, and there was strict privacy laws, they'd be like, hey, you don't have my permission to use that footage. So ethically, yes, ask people, tell them where it's going to be. But I hope that answers your question. That, and Prof Dev, correct me if I'm wrong, but in most countries, including here in Australia, you don't have a right to privacy if you're in the public space. If you're filming somebody in their house, it's a very different thing. Then they have absolute right to privacy.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thanks for your question. Okay, cool. Thanks so much, everybody. And Prof Dev, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. Bye-bye.
என்னது அவ்வளவுதானா ஓவரா
தேவட்ட கேட்டு சொல்றேன் நான். ஹோல்ட் ஆன்.
ஓகே
போட்டு வச்சுக்கலாம். நம்ம ஃப்ரேம் எடுத்துக்கலாமா? அந்த ஃப்ரேம் எதுவும்